Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today with Petra. We are going to have um, a beautiful fireside chat, and we're going to be talking about exploring past lives, soul
Hello,
contracts.
everyone. I'm so
Oh,
excited to be
sorry.
here today.
Sorry. There was like a feedback. I didn't realize that YouTube Live just goes live right away and it had feedback. So again,
Minling,
we
this happened to me on my first live stream as well, so don't worry, it happens to the
thank
best of us.
you. Thank you. Sorry, everyone. Again, I'll start over. So we're excited to have this fireside chat with Petra. We're going to be exploring past lives, do soul contracts, and talk about the subconscious mind with theta healing and Akashic records. Super excited to have you here, Petra, and sharing your beautiful wisdom with the giraffes. And would love to start out by having you share a little bit about how you got into this, like what's your spiritual journey been like, and how you started to read about the Akashic records.
Yeah, thank you for having me and thank you everyone for being here. So my spiritual journey started, I would say like when I really had my awakening, I was around 24. And at that time I was living in Jakarta, Indonesia. A lot of people know about Indonesia and they're like Bali. And I'm like, okay, I was in the belly of the beast in Jakarta. It's not the fun part. And I was honestly like materially, I was set, like I had a great job. I lived in a mansion, had driver, maids, like materially, I had everything, but just something didn't feel right in my heart. Like I knew deep down I didn't belong there. I knew deep down that I just, I was meant for something more, but I couldn't see a way out. Like just, I kind of had this limited perspective. And long story short, I was kind of in this constant battle between my head and my heart. And I was listening to my head because I was just like, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm just supposed to take over the family business and all this stuff. And I started to get sick. And so for about like 2 years, I had like a mysterious autoimmune disease. I was in and out of the hospital all the time, and just nothing was really helping. And then finally, when I was 24, my mom was like, okay, let's just get like a full panel, let's test everything. And the doctor told me that I might have pancreatic cancer. And it was honestly, it was like a wake up call, but more like a permission slip. Cause at that point, I was just so unhappy, just in my own version of depression. Like I was a high functioning depressed person. I was still the happiest person in my community, but like I was like pretty dead deep inside. And so when the doctor told me that, I was kind of like, great, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to travel and then I'm going to die. Like, I don't have to do this thing called adulting. Like, awesome. I don't want to do this anyways. And it finally like gave me a permission slip to actually start doing what I want. So then I started traveling, and this is where my healing journey and hero's journey really began, where I like left the ordinary world, left everything I knew, and I backpacked through Europe by myself for 6 months. And like as an Asian woman, like from Indonesia, this was a big deal. Like my whole family was like, "You're gonna get kidnapped. Like you can't travel alone. You're a woman." And I was just like, "Watch me, watch me do my thing." And I ended up in Bali, which is funny because it's like literally like right next door to actually where I was living in Jakarta. But when I came to Bali this time, I went to Ubud, which is like spiritual vortex town, and I got a psychic reading there for the first psychic reading I ever received. And so I asked the psychic, I was like, what's up with my health? Like I'm 24 years old. Like how am I this sick? Like why am I sick? And he told me that it was more of like a spiritual emotional thing. And he told me that, Petra, you cannot heal in the same place that caused your trauma. He's like, literally move anywhere else in the world, because all of this, like the sickness and this trauma is caused by you living in Jakarta, like all the different family things and environmental stuff. I just had like really heavy karma in that from that city. And so I moved to Bali, and it was just flow. It was magic. I literally moved there on May 4th. May the 4th be with you. And within a week, I had a place to live. I made friends, and a job literally landed on my lap. I was just having breakfast at this like healing center, restaurant, like they did like events and all this stuff. And this manager came up to me and was just like, "Hey, what are you doing in Bali?" And I was like, "I just moved here. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet." And she was like, "Do you have a job?" I'm like, "No." And she's like, "We're looking for a marketing person." And I was like, "I do marketing." And like just landed this job. I became the marketing director of this healing center at 24. And so my job became try out all the classes, try out all the healthy food, try out all the spa treatments, try out all the healing and sell it. And so that was like my deep dive into the healing world. And one of the first healings I received was Theta healing. And I'm going to talk more about this later, but Theta healing is basically working with the Theta brainwave, which is the brainwave where it's like deep meditation. It's between like alpha state, which is flow state, and delta, which is dream state, like sleeping. And it's how you access your subconscious mind. So if you do hypnosis, that's the brainwave that you get into. And so when we're in this brainwave, we can reprogram things from the subconscious, and we can like connect to our intuition deeply. And that's when I started learning about soul contracts, belief systems. It's like if you have a recurring pattern in your life, it is usually because there's a belief system that's keeping it there. It's how I opened my intuition and started to just connect with multidimensional healing beyond just psychology, beyond just going to a traditional doctor, and learning how basically every dis-ease, like every pattern, starts with a thought, which becomes an emotion, right? And so, like, I learned how to tune into the root of the issue beyond just, getting a diagnosis and like taking pills that doesn't even really fix it. It masks the symptoms or it treats it, but it doesn't get to the root of the issue. And that's why a lot of these patterns and diseases come back. So I started healing really rapidly, and I healed myself with, like spiritual and emotional healing and also Chinese medicine. And that just changed my life. I mean, it blew my mind because I was suffering for like 2+ years. And then in a theta healing session, within like 15 minutes, like these deep traumas were able to be cleared. Like I had like a motorcycle trauma where I fell off a motorcycle in Thailand, and in Bali, like you kind of just need a motorcycle to get around. And every time I would hop on a motorcycle in the beginning, I would start shaking. And then I was just like, all right, I need to confront this. Like I need to, because I need to ride a motorcycle if I'm going to live here. And within 15 minutes, it was completely neutralized. And like the next day, I like got on a motorcycle and I was completely fine. And I'm just like, how does the world not know about this? It's like I can go to therapy for years and never get these types of results. And so that, instigated me and inspired me to learn this for myself. So I've been doing healing work and learning about different modalities since 2014. And it's really become my life mission to, just bring this to people and help people let go of baggage, let go of trauma so they can live their happiest and most fulfilling lives.
I love that story. That's such a testament to like the journey that you've been on and the work that you've put in, because like this is actual work, even though you're doing a lot of healing, there's like so much work involved in clearing these patterns from and beliefs in you. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about the importance of, multidimensional healing, and why is that so like critical for us as we ascend, as we move forward, on the spiritual journey, or even if we're not on the spiritual journey, in terms of our own healing as well.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like holistic healing is really the way to go, right? Because it's just like there is things happening on the mind, body, and soul, energetic level. And yeah, some things can be resolved just from one level, but for I think the more complicated things or the deeper things, it's really helpful to go multidimensional. It's like support it with your diet. Like if you see a psychologist, great. If you have a spiritual healer, great. Like work with an energy healer, like regulate your nervous system, right? Because everything is so connected. And for me, in my journey, I found, like with the autoimmune disease, with the anxiety that I had, these were all really emotionally rooted problems. Some of them were also spiritually rooted, which is really interesting to uncover. So in, like traditional or like even pop psychology, a lot of people are just kind of like, all right, kind of the basic formula is, where does this trigger come from? Usually it comes from childhood, and then you talk about it, which is helpful. But when you're talking about something, you're really only working with the conscious mind. And so the conscious mind is only 5% of our mind. The 95% is subconscious, right? Like, why is it so hard for us, even though consciously, for example, you're like, I want to quit smoking, but then it's so hard because there's subconscious programs running in the background. Or maybe consciously, you're like, I want to be in a relationship. But if you have subconscious programs or traumas running in the background that's telling you it's not safe to be in a relationship. If I'm in a relationship, I'm going to lose my freedom, feel trapped, or whatever happened to you. Which one do you think is going to win? The 95% or the 5%? So, like, affirmations are great, but if you have another belief system that is stronger than that conscious one that you're trying to put in, it's like 5%, 95%, which one's going to win? Which is why with the multidimensional healing, like really going to the root of it, and then not only just discovering what the root is, but being able to reprogram it, like that's where the juice is. Like that's where very fast, like instant transformation can occur, because you're not just like trying to chisel something from the outside in, you're actually changing something from the inside out. Like I call Theta healing, it's like a software update, right? It's like you're looking at these different beliefs that you have from childhood, because most of our belief systems are created between the ages of 0 and 7, which is the time of life that we're mostly living in a theta state, which is why kids' minds are so spongy, right, at that time of life. And it's really confronting and awakening to actually realize that most of our belief systems, right, were created from ages 0 to 7, meaning that like you have a freaking 5-year-old like pretty much running your life. And if those belief systems like do not serve you, if it's not like, securely attached or whatever to reach your goal, it's really great to have awareness of that. So that's one level, belief systems. Um, Another level to really look at too is soul contracts. It can be something in past life. And so this is something I discovered when I was like, the biggest mystery for me this lifetime has honestly been my relationship with my mom. I have a Chiron in Cancer, so my deepest wound and challenge is actually with family. And I don't know, like just some of my earliest memories is I've always just rejected my mom. Some of my earliest memories is me pushing her away. And I just have this anger towards her. And I honestly do not know why. And so I worked on that a lot in Theta Healing. I went to Family Constellation. And there I discovered that I had a lot of karmic contracts with her. And I also had this like ancestral thing with her. And I think I also picked up the resentment my dad had for her, like, and so it's so multifaceted. There you can look at birth trauma, you can look at, like different karmic contracts. And when I started looking at the soul contracts I had with my mom, like in Theta Healing, you discover these weird things. Like, for example, I had a contract where I was like married to my mom, which, like really made sense because I kind of felt like I owed my life to her. And I wasn't fully sovereign to make my own decisions, because if I did something that was like against her will or against her desire, I felt like it was a huge betrayal. Right. And like these are things that wouldn't really come up in like a therapy session, because it's actually just like totally from somewhere else. So it's really powerful to tune into that. And another really powerful example I want to share is I used to be a racist. Like, and I have compassion for racists, because I'm like, it's not fun to have that level of hate towards any group of people. And I was a racist towards my own race. So I'm half Chinese, half Indonesian, and I was racist towards Chinese people, which is like half of who I am. And it showed up for me where I would like go to a Buddhist temple where there's like Chinese writing somewhere, or I'm like in a Chinese restaurant and I'm just triggered as fuck. I'm angry. And then it finally like really like, came to me. I was in a Qigong class and I remember it was like in the middle of crane pose. And I just was enraged. I was like, I'm literally so mad right now. I had to leave the class. I went home at that time I was living with a Theta healer who's been doing it for like 15, 20 years. And I was like, Kala, what the F is happening right now? Like, I'm just so angry at Chinese people. Like, anything Chinese just like made my blood boil. And she's just like Australian lady, and she's just so casually, she's just like, oh honey, that's just ancestral trauma, it's okay, we can clear it. And I'm like, okay. And so we end up like digging deep into these ancestral traumas I had around China, because my family escaped communism to Hong Kong. And so obviously that's like such a traumatic thing where they got separated for their kids. They had to smuggle the kids one by one into Hong Kong. And there was just, and deeper than that, I had like past life memories come back around being in a village in China and like being pillaged. Like, and so it was just like, oh my God, like no wonder I had such reaction and felt so unsafe when I was in the presence of anything Chinese, right? And so we cleared that and it completely neutralized. And not only that, it was so crazy. I started bleeding, like it just like triggered my period. And then like my wisdom teeth popped out like the same night. And I was like, the fuck? And Kala was like, yeah, blood and bones. That's all to do with family. Like that's ancestral. And I'm just like, how are these things so connected? It's wild. Um, so yeah, if there is something in your life that's really mysterious, it's like recurring pattern, or you have a certain like intuition or tendency towards something, or you're just like, wow, this is triggering me like really unproportionally, I would say that's an invitation to like, look at it from a multidimensional way, because most of the time the problem isn't what we think it is.
Oh, that's a really powerful story. And it's so ironic because I'm Chinese. So, like, look, we're like sitting here and you just told that story. I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's like full circle moment almost. But in terms of like healing the patterns and the beliefs, like what do you do when you identify with it, like, or identify it, like that pattern? Because I think a lot of people have like, they know what's going on, they know that like there's something there and they found it, but what do you do with it? What do you do with that information? How do you, shift it?
Yeah. Amazing question. I mean, I feel like there's so many different ways, right? And really find the one that's right for you. It's definitely been a trial and error thing for me as well. And I'm a dabbler. Like I call myself like a personal development junkie. I love trying different things. But I would say at the root of it is like number one, you have to come from a space of love and acceptance. If you're going into it just with the intention of like, oh, like I don't like this feeling, I just want it to go away, which I'm like, I do all the time. I'm an Enneagram 7. It's like anything not fun. I'm just like, no. So I really had to learn that for myself. It's like what resists persists. So like number one, just really coming at it from a place of like openness, curiosity, love, acceptance, and compassion of just like, okay, this thing is coming up. I may not like it. I fucking hate how it feels. That's okay, but I'm like willing to discover what's here instead of pushing it away, instead of judging it. Like I noticed for myself that sometimes I judge my negative emotions, or I'm like, oh, my brat is out. Like that's so annoying. I shouldn't be feeling this way. But that actually just perpetuates the problem, right? So number one, coming from that space of acceptance and like having compassion for yourself. It was just like, all right, like I'm having an experience. There must be a message for me. And to like just connecting with the message. So something I also practice is parts work or internal family system. And in this modality, the premises is we have a family inside of us. Basically, we have like our inner child, we have our inner teenager, we have our inner queen, inner king, like inner brat, like a million different archetypes can live inside of us. And so holding space for the different parts, because a lot of the times we actually have a lot of different opinions happening, right? And so just connecting to like, okay, where is this coming from? Like, where is this emotion coming from? So you can, explore it archetypally. It can be like, all right, like, who is this? It's like, oh, okay, it's my inner bitch, for example, or it's like, oh, it's my inner protector. And then I'll connect with it and I'll just ask it, like, all right, like, I'm listening. Like, what message do you have for me? Because emotions and thoughts, I mean, they're all really just messages, right? Even diseases, in the modality that I practice, Psych K, they say when it comes to diseases, it's not something to be feared. It's not like the enemy. I think there's this big conditioning around like diseases being a bad thing. I mean, obviously it's like uncomfortable and people are like, fight cancer. But it's like, no, we shouldn't be in battle with ourselves, because really these symptoms are just our way of our body communicating with us, right? And it has a message for us. So connecting with that archetype, or it can even be connecting with like on a somatic level, like where do I feel this in my body, right? Say it's like, okay, I feel this like tightness in my chest right now. Like, let me connect to that. Let me listen to it. What message do you have for me? How are you feeling? Because most of the time, these things just want to be known. And the more you run away from it, the more you suppress it, the more you resist it, it has no choice but to get louder and louder and louder. So if you're having a physical symptom, it's like this message has actually been trying to get to you. It's been like knocking on your door for quite some time now, but you've been ignoring it. And that's why it has to show up in the body to finally get your attention. So really, in your own way, hold space for it. It can be through the archetypal part, or it can be through the somatic body. Um, and just however way you like to hold space for yourself. Like maybe you like to process via painting or writing. Like find the way that you feel like you can most see, hear, and feel yourself. And really that I think is the foundation of the healing. Because at the end of the day, it's like we just, we want our own love. Like we want our own loving attention, and that unconditional love and that acceptance and that compassion is the baseline energy that will shift it. And it's like I've been a personal development junkie for almost 10 years now, and I was just constantly like trying to heal myself and try to learn more things. But I realized a couple years ago that it was coming from this space of lack. It was coming from the space of I'm not good enough, so I'm going to change these things, but they're never sustainable, because anything done not from a space of self-love and acceptance, it's like you didn't actually get the assignment. So you're just going to have to like do it over again in a different level later on. But I get it. Like it can take layers, right? But I think the biggest thing I've learned is really like self-love, self-compassion must be the foundation of everything. And that's how you really shift something.
I really love that you mentioned that because it's so easy to get hard, like down on ourselves and be like hard on ourselves for not doing it right or not healing fast enough or not getting it. I know that's been like a struggle for me, like in the beginning of my journey. And that's when you start to seek, all these different modalities and all these different ways. And I also love what you said about, you know, that it's stored in our body. So we can ask these different aspects of us. And I do believe that diseases come from like repressed emotions. My mom had, stage 1 lung cancer, and she repressed a lot of her feelings. And I'm just like, it's because she
Mm.
pushed her energy down. And so it's a lot of things that people don't understand that is impacting us if we don't allow that side of us to express itself in a loving, compassionate way, and giving ourselves that love. So I'm glad that you brought it up. I would love to switch gears. Oh, actually, Max has a question. I love this one too. How do you discern between an emotion being a legitimate warning versus a trauma response that's not connected to the present situation?
Love that question, Max. Yeah. How do you discern between, okay, legitimate warning versus trauma response? I feel like the key word here is the present situation, right? So when we're in a trauma response, we're basically operating from like a trigger or a response in our body that's actually rooted in the past, right? So say you're in a situation and you start to feel activated, or you're just like, whoa, like something's coming up in my body. Number one, get present, like somatic things really help in these situations. Like I've gone into trauma responses and have been walked through these sort of things with a somatic healer. And one of the things that she led me through, she's just like, all right, feel your feet on the ground. It's like, first of all, just get in your body, get really present. And for me, I like to name what's happening in my body. So I'm staying here and I'm not just like going into this trauma loop, like in my head into another timeline. So connecting with like, okay, what's happening right now? I feel tightness in my chest. I'm noticing thoughts about XYZ, and just naming it and holding space for it. So at least you can notice it and you're not like being caught in it, but you can look at it, right? Like you're aware of what's happening. So I would say that's number one, getting really present. And then number two, asking it, again, the parts work is really powerful. Just ask, like, okay, where is this coming from? So tuning into, is it coming from your head? Is it coming from your gut? And nothing's right or wrong. It's just for you to really notice like the different things that are happening here. If it's a trauma response or an emotional trigger, you can tell if it's something, like a trauma response or emotional trigger, if it's something small that happened, but you're having a really big reaction, right? I think that's a really good check-in point for you to be like, okay, wow, it's like this thing that happened is actually really tiny. I don't have to react this way, but there is something in me that's like putting out an alert. So let me just connect with the alert. Like there's a message for me here. So I would connect with that and ask it questions. Does that answer your question, Max?
Yes. He said yes.
Well,
Thank you. That
yeah,
was
and it's really like about, because everyone's intuition comes through differently. I find that usually intuition is pretty neutral. Like you can have a gut feeling, but when it's this like overwhelming fear, it's usually either a trauma response or, if it's rooted in the mind, usually it's more like a thought or psychological fear or a trauma response. But I would also say like practice connecting with your intuition, because for everyone it comes differently. Like if you follow human design, we have our authority. So maybe for you it's a gut response. Like maybe for someone else it's like, for me it's like I have to say it out loud. So really have that connection with your body so you can start to discern for yourself how your body communicates with you.
I love that. It's so important to trust yourselves and build that intuition. I would love for you to like share a little bit about how to like connect with your intuition, and then I want to transition to Akashic records because I don't want to leave people hanging, because I think a lot of the most common question I get whenever I work with people is like, how do I connect to my intuition? I don't know what's right and wrong. I don't know if I'm making it up or if this is true or if this is like I just don't know what direction to trust, or maybe I have like two opposing thoughts and I'm not sure which one to follow. So how would you say, or how would you advise people to start to connect to the intuition and build that relationship?
Yeah, amazing question. Um, so like I started to open up my intuition when I did theta healing training. And the number one thing that blocks intuition is the attachment to the outcome. So like step number one, surrender the attachment. It's not about it being right or wrong. Because like I notice sometimes I get stuck in my head. I'm just like, oh, like what if I say the wrong thing? It's just actually get out of the way. Like get out of your head and just trust what's coming. So number one, giving yourself just permission to play. And like letting go of it having to be right or wrong. So I would say that's number one. Number two, there's like five main clairs that people talk about. So there's clairsentience. That means you feel things in your body. Like, for example, you can be doing a reading or someone tells you something and you start feeling sensations in your body. Or, you can even pick up things in your body that someone else is feeling. That's another way clairsentience can come up. Another one is claircognizance. So that's a deep sense of knowing. Like that's the one that's most alive for me, where I don't know how I know it, but like when I'm channeling, you'll see too, it just, the information just appears. It's like I open my mouth and it just comes out. Don't know how I know it, I just know it. And then the most common one is clairvoyance. So this is seeing things. If you're a visual person, you might see these images, but know that the subconscious mind and the intuition often communicates in metaphor. So you may see something that seems completely unrelated to what's happening, and your job is to unpack that. Like maybe you see an orange giraffe and you're like, what does that mean to me? Or if you're giving a reading to somebody else, ask it what it means to them, but just continue to trust what shows up. And then another one is clairaudience, so hearing things. And then the other clair, I forget the actual word, but smelling things. That's one of the most uncommon ones. So playing around and just seeing where your strengths are. Every single person has psychic abilities. but you just have to practice it. You know, it's like going to the gym. The more you connect to it, the more you practice it, the stronger it's going to be. And the biggest thing is just trust yourself, you know, just allow it to come through, let go of attachment to outcome, because things are also changing all the time. Like you may have an intuition around something right now, and then you act on it, and then the outcome becomes different because you acted on it. Right. So it's just like follow the breadcrumbs and just know that we're living in this like shifting reality all the time. Right. So it's like, you know, just because you had an intuition today that says something, it might say something else tomorrow. And that's okay. It doesn't mean your intuition today was wrong. It's just like the messages are evolving. And the more that you can just stay present with it and trust the unfolding of everything, the more you can, you know, just like the more that you can live in this state of flow and trust.
Those are really great practices. And I find that honing in to the intuition is just like listening to whatever's present for you. Like you said, just practicing and playing without attachment. Max says an orange giraffe means gratitude for you. So, kind of figured that would be what you would say about the orange giraffe. But I would love to transition and talk a little bit about the Akashic Records because I know we want to do a reading for the group. And by the way, if you came in late from the group, feel free to raise your hand when we get into the Akashic Records, and we'll have you come off mute to ask questions when we get there. But can you explain what the Akashic Records is and why it's so important for people, and what does it do, and how does it relate to the healing process for those people who don't know what it means and what it is?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm just gonna keep it like really high level and millennial. Akashic Records is basically spirit, the spiritual iCloud of all time. So it's this dimension where it's a library of all information, all your lifetimes, and when you tune into the Akashic Records, you're able to access basically your personal library. Today we're going to do a group one. So that actually grants us access to everyone's library here. If you're tuning in now, if you're tuning in later, just trust that if you were drawn here, there's a message for you. And what's fun about the group readings too, if you ask a personal question, your personal question will still get answered. And there's usually an extra layer that comes online because there's also the influence of the energy of the group, that there's going to be like the personal message, but also like a more collective transmission. Because also everything that's personal is universal. So Akashic Records are really great if you want to explore in a deeper way, like your past lives. Basically, when I go, or, you know, past lives, past contracts, different timelines of possibility. Like I've helped people get clarity on like major decisions in their life also through, you know, going into the Akashic Records. And what happens in a reading is I will say the Akashic Records prayer, and then I'm going to meet your guides, teachers, masters, and loved ones. So these are basically your soul guides that have been with you through your soul's many lifetimes. So it has like extensive knowledge of your specific soul, and they act as the librarians because there's so much information in there, right? So when we ask it a question, it's basically going to sift through the information and present you with what's most relevant for your growth and empowerment right now. And a funny thing about the Akashic Records too is the intention of the guides is to empower you. So you can sometimes get a straight answer, but also sometimes they're actually going to ask you back a question so that you can, you know, ignite that truth within yourself if that's what's needed. So it's a really dynamic thing. It's really fun. And it's, yeah, it's a great way to connect with yourself beyond just this lifetime, because we are being influenced, you know, by like past karma, you know, from different lifetimes, but you also have soul gifts. So one of the cool things you can do in the Akashic Records as well is you can actually download energetically the soul gifts that you have from these different lifetimes or different dimensions. And it's really vast.
I love your explanation, especially like the iCloud. It is the iCloud. It's like the record that keeps everything that is out there. So definitely I would encourage you guys to raise your hand. I will call your name, or or just post in the chat below that you want to have your Akashic Records read. And also it could be simple questions. It doesn't have to be anything like super deep. because there's also going to be opportunity for you to go deeper as well once you just ask like a simple question. It could be like, what am I like here to do? Or that might be a deep one, but post your questions below, or raise your hand and I will call on you. So I'm going to let Petra to go ahead and um, let us take us into the Akashic records, and then I will call people's names. Thank you.
Beautiful. All right. So I also want to invite everyone here and everyone watching to just get into a meditative state as we're going to journey together. You may feel something, you may feel nothing, and anything is perfect, but I do want to invite you to at least just drop in, tune in so that you can open your channel to receive, not just the words, but also the energetic transmissions of the Akashic records. So taking a deep breath in. Exhale with a sound. And I want to invite us all to just open ourselves up to receive. Relaxing your body, relaxing your mind, being in an open and receptive state. And also giving yourself full permission to listen and activate your intuition. Beautiful. To acknowledge the forces of life. Okay, the records are now open. All right, I will take our first question.
From Nisarine. Nisarine, you can unmute yourself.
I have to ask a question. What's my soul purpose? Soul
Okay.
gifts, I guess.
Okay, let me tune in. Okay, so how do you say your name? Is it Nisarine?
Yes, Nasreen.
Okay, beautiful. So Nasreen, it's interesting. What I see for you is you have this really powerful balance of like masculine and feminine. The first answer I got was nurturance. Like you love to help people, you love to take care of people. There's this like divine mother energy, but also there's also this like divine masculine like warrior energy. There's like I would say that like helping people, nurturing people is kind of like in your hearts of hearts, like that's definitely a big soul gift, but also coupled with this like warrior, no bullshit, stand up for what is right type, like tough love. You're not necessarily just kind of like the Cancer vibe mother. It's like there's an advocate in you. It's like if you're really passionate about something, like you really stand up for what you believe in and you're not afraid to like fight the good fight. But like in the heart of it all, it's because you want to see people and planets and like animals and just beings thrive. It's coming from actually this very like soft feminine place. But you have the gift of both. You have the gift of both that softness and nurturing, but you also have this gift of like, like when shit gets hard, like you show up for it. Like you really know how to like be a leader and take something from beginning to end.
Thank you.
How's that
How
landing
to
for you?
it's completely right. You landed on it, but like how to overcome the internal resistance. Can I ask such a question? Like the internal is there's what's
What's the resistance that you're having?
just old limiting beliefs that come up before I can step into my soul purpose more.
Okay, what limiting belief feels most alive for you right now that's coming up?
things like like basically fear of failure, fear of success, both of them at the same time.
Okay, let me tune into that for you. Okay, so I'm seeing that it's kind of giving you like a little bit of paralysis, right? You're like, I don't know what to do now. Okay, let me tune into that. Whew. Okay, so as soon as I tuned into it, I saw your inner child come online. And your inner child is just like, I just want to play. Like, what's up with all this pressure you're putting on me? So yeah, I would say give yourself a place to play. Like again, don't be so attached to the outcome. um let me see. Your inner child is actually like super vibrant and like fun and happy and alive. It's like, I just want to play. I want to explore. Like she wants to be in her artist. She wants to be in her creator. And what I'm seeing as like a specific block for you is that you can get too much in your head around like, I need to do it right. Or like you just start kind of looking to other people. I mean, which is not bad, right? Like you can look for examples, but when you get too like attached to it has to look a certain way from the place of fear, from the place of, like your head, then you're actually stopping your creative genius, right? Because you're just trying to be like everyone else. You're trying to get to safety, but the frame that you're putting on it is, I'm only safe if I do it like this, which is someone else's way, that may or may not work for you. So my biggest invitation for you is to be in beginner's mind and just give yourself a space to experiment. For you, especially, like a soul gift that wants to be unlocked is originality. It's like you have this craving to do it your own way. And it's scary, it's vulnerable, right? Because it's like, this is my work now. It's not just this thing I'm regurgitating, right? It's actually like, it's vulnerable because it's so deeply connected to like who you are on the inside. And, like kind of the second part of the invitation there, the work is, no matter what comes out, like hold yourself in unconditional love. Like, like work with yourself like it's an inner child, right? Like if a 4-year-old gives you a painting, you're not just going to criticize it and be like, oh, like, that left eye is crooked, right? Like embrace it, embrace it. I'm seeing deeply that this is actually stemming from your inner child who, like, she wants to play, but then at some point in your childhood, it just became so serious and you just felt all this pressure to perform and be perfect. And you kind of lost that creative freedom. So connect more with your creative freedom, have fun, and just know that like your soul's deep longing is to express yourself freely. That's really what it's about.
Okay, great. Thank you. Amazing.
Perfect. And we have a bunch of people up, so we're going to limit to one question per person. Rochelle is next.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for sharing all that. I really resonated with what you said to her as well. Amazing. I guess my question is like, what's next? I've kind of just been in a free fall this year and I've always had like the next thing. And I have so many, I would say too many ideas and no ideas at the same time.
Okay.
I don't know if that's too general of a question.
The more specific the question, the more specific the answer.
Okay. So I would say, what next career-wise?
Okay. Beautiful. Let me to that. Okay, so tell me the different pathways you're considering, and then we can actually look more specifically into, like each consideration and see what's there.
Okay. I worked corporate for a long time. Then I went into freelance marketing and now I've been on a health journey and I have a degree in health. So I've been like debating going back into that, but I have a lot of resistance around the coaching world and what that would look like for me to dive into that. Yeah. And then kind of, I've been working on the relationship around money, but then finding, like you said, like that joy in the play and the creativity, but then also making sure that you do make money from it all.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, beautiful. I'm gonna tune in. It's funny. Your guides are like, she's always like thinking about the future. So it's funny you said what's next, and then their response is, well, first of all, what's present? So if you were to be completely honest with yourself, like, where are you at right now?
In what way?
Just in life, like, okay, and so this is a really fun question to unpack and like answer just as honestly as you can, because the way you answer this question is also going to reveal to you the frame that you're putting on your life story right now. It's going to reveal to you what your mindset is. So where are you at right now in life?
I would say crawling out of a hole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Tell me about this hole you're crawling out of.
Ooh. Hi, olive giraffes. Interesting putting myself on blast here.
It's so
Yeah,
comfortable.
I had a similar experience too. I got really, really sick, and I've been on this crazy journey this year to heal myself, and I lost everything. I lost my home, I lost my health. I had to move back in with family. I lost my job. I lost everything, and I was like this close to giving up, and then really only in like I had surgery, and then only in like the last month I've been like, okay, we got this. Where do we go from here?
Mm. Beautiful. Beautiful. Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. So first I want to reflect something that you said a lot about what you lost. Amazing. And an invitation is to also focus on what you've gained. A lot of the time when people lose, we don't own anything. When people lose things, there can be, I mean, obviously there's the grief, right? There's the shock because it's like, this thing that has given me so much safety and identity for a long time. But it's like, from a spiritual perspective, this is actually so powerful because it's showing us like who we actually are. Because who you are and what you actually have, what is actually yours, can never be taken away from you, and you actually have gained so much as well. So, number one, if I can give you some homework, like, look at what you've gained, right? So, that's going to move you into a space of abundance instead of lack. A. B, it's also more realistic. It's like, yo, you got to look at both sides of the coin. You didn't just lose a bunch of stuff, you also gained some things. And whenever these really powerful initiations, these challenges come up, it's only because there's a treasure in it. Like, it's trying to teach you something, right? And it's like when you learn the lesson, that's when you upgrade to the next level. So really sit with like, what did I learn from this period of time? Because literally every single event that happened is leading you to where you are meant to go. So sit with the lessons, and that's going to guide you. Like, the lessons are going to guide you. Especially because health was a big thing for you, tuning into your body, like really listening, because everyone's body is going to communicate differently, right? So it's like, why did those things come up? Likely there's really deep patterns that is wanting to be worked out there, right? So listening to that. And then let's see, the last thing I'm getting for you is around like what's next is like, fully embrace where you are first. Like, there's no going around it. We try and skip these steps, but like, again, what resists persists. So like, fully accept where you are. And then just hold space for when those fears are coming up, right? When the mind is like, we're not safe here, like we have to know what's happening next. It's like, the invitation here is to actually have a more regulated and secure relationship with when those fears are coming up, and trusting the timeline of your body. you know um if your body's still needing recovery, don't push it past where it is, because that's kind of what got you into this place in the first place, right? Like not fully honoring where your body's at. And when it comes to taking your next steps, let's see, number one guidance for you specifically, is to make every decision from a space of empowerment. Don't do it from a space of fear. Don't do it from a space of lack. Don't do it just, just because this is what worked in the past. Like, you have been given this really powerful transformative initiation so that you can pretty much wipe the slate fucking clean and start anew. So really continuing to ask yourself, what do I really desire? Like, what does my heart, what does my body, what does my soul really want? And taking steps towards those. How's that landing for you?
Yeah, someone else told me recently, your pain is your power. And I'm like, that's not fair. I don't want that. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
It is
Thank
it's
you.
like the gym, right? It's like, yo, you
Right.
can't in the muscle without
Yeah,
tearing
but
it
the
first.
gym you choose. This I didn't choose. So it takes a second to accept it,
On a soul level, you did though, because if it were meant to
Fair.
be any other, it
Fair.
would be. Lean into the source. Like, you geniusly orchestrated this for yourself, and it will make sense. Maybe not now, but when you look back, it always does, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
So next
You're welcome.
we have Val is next.
Hi.
Hi, Val.
Yeah, thanks for being here. This was so great. And I resonate with all the work stuff too, also struggling with what to do for work. But my question to sort of like answer that is like, I'm trying to tap more into my karma to try to figure out kind of where to go and have that try to lead me. And so I'm wondering if you can tell me anything about what you might feel about my karma and where that might be, or if that's something you can do. Yeah.
I'm curious why you want to tap into your karma.
Because I feel like if I can like address my like past life karma, then it'll explain more about like maybe how I'm supposed to live my life this way, or like inform more of my decision making or my path to the future.
Okay, that's really interesting the way that you framed that. Okay, let me tune in. Wow. Okay. So first of all, what that shows me is that you have a mindset towards the past dictates my future. So which is just notice that. Karma's there, but there's free will, right? So it's like, okay, for example, like you came into this lifetime with a certain set of karma of unresolved things from the past. But I also want to put this frame on karma is both like the good things and the bad things, right? It's basically what goes around comes around. What you put out there, you're getting back. So the most important thing is actually the response to it. It's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to it. So I want to put that frame first, just to put you, like to remind you of your space of empowerment and that you have so much choice and so much free will. Okay, the karma. Ask me a more specific question. What is it that you're actually desiring to know?
I guess I just like cannot figure out my path in life. Like I've had like really varied work. I like, I get let go from things. I like can't, I like really hate working for other people, but like, but I'm also like part of my sign doesn't totally say that I'm like a like a manifester of that and to initiate that life. And so I just don't know where to go. I'm having a really hard time kind of like figuring out my path and like having something kind of fit right. And I get really frustrated with just like work and I've been kind of in and out of work for the last year and like off for 6 months and then on for a few and then off again. And it's just like nothing seems to kind of work out. And so I'm just sort of like, maybe I'm not in touch with, something I'm supposed to be to sort of figure out where to go. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you for that deeper context. All right, let me tune in. Okay, it's so interesting. So everyone's records presents differently, right? And so when I tapped into yours, it's like I see your soul literally just going like this, like as in it's doing so fucking much. Like I think one of your challenges is that you have a lot of interests
Yes.
and you're like, which one do I choose? There's this like, wow. Okay, I think you really need to hear this. You're like, you kind of have this like genius vibe. Like the mad genius is just like, I'm actually processing so much information that I don't even know where to start. Like, do you feel overwhelmed sometimes?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, that's a gift, so you actually are highly intelligent, but it's just about like, all right, like how do I work with these energies to like channel it? Let me see. There is, yeah, it's interesting. There is kind of this like chaotic energy that I tap into. Um, and it's like not good or bad. This is actually part of your genius. So it's actually really about like harnessing this genius, working for other people. Like, okay, it's interesting. Your system works in such a unique way that I understand that it can be hard where you feel like you're limited or you're put into a box because you're actually such a creative soul and you just really do things in your own way that may not make sense to other people. And then that can feel kind of constraining for you because it's just like, I just want to do it this way.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's see. There's kind of this balance where having people to be accountable to is actually really healthy for you because
Mhm.
or else you can just kind of get like lost in your own world. But at the same time, you also like need that freedom. So I
Mhm.
would say it's like finding that hybrid of where you can still be like autonomous and you're free to like complete your tasks and like do your genius your own way, but also like having a team, being a part of a greater vision and mission, and like, having people to be accountable to and work with, like that also brings you joy. Like that actually, like it up levels you, it heralds you into the greater version of yourself, because if it's only self-centered, like that's not fulfilling for you either.
Yeah, it's not.
Right. Yeah, so I think it's really like a self-mastery. So number one for you is really begin to study yourself, study your
Mm,
energy. It's like when you're performing at your best, what's happening in your life, what's in place, what's in place, what's not in place. Like, so study yourself, like, because your job right now is actually to harness your genius. And then
mm,
once you harness your genius, then you can manifest these things and you can follow through on it in a better flow.
mhm.
Stop fighting yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to learn how to work with your energies.
Yeah. No, I love
And
that.
remember, like underneath it, you're actually a freaking genius. Like it may not make sense to other people, it may look kind of chaotic, but
Mm,
it's actually because you're a genius. And so once you unlock how to work with your genius flow, boom, you're soaring. Like seriously.
awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. We have two more people. We have Jay, and then we have Shervin afterwards. So go ahead, Jay.
Oh, thanks, Minling. Hi, Petra. Really great session so far. So my question is, so I feel like I'm in a new beginning. I recently moved from LA to Spain, and I felt like it was a very like I intuitively driven moment, and I definitely follow my body and everything. And I'm kind of at a point where I just have like a bunch of like possibilities of the next stage of my life. And I think most important to me is like divine partnership, because I just feel like as anything I'm excited about building, I want to do as part of a partnership. At the same time, I'm also feeling like I also have work to do in terms of my I-ness, developing my self-expression, developing my creativity further. And I'm getting like conflicting perspectives of like, what should I prioritize right now? Like, should it be in terms of like manifesting, like hold off on making big decisions like buying property until I manifest that we-ness? Or should I really focus on like the I-ness and just exploring, and then that partnership will kind of come along the way? And so I'm curious if you have any guidance.
That's an amazing question. Okay, let me tune in for you. Okay, so this is interesting. So you have two desires right now, basically, right? There's actually no problem. it's the perception, it's like, cool, I have two desires, right? Neutral, great. It's like we have fucking 14 desires happening at the same time all the time. There's actually no problem. And it doesn't have to be an either or. So putting that into just like your mindset, right? Of kind of like, okay, great. Like I notice a desire for working on myself and sovereignty and the I-ness. And I also have a desire for a partnership. It doesn't have to be exclusive, right? It's like you can continue working on your I-ness. And actually, the more you work on your I-ness, your sovereignty, your self-love, your self-worth, is continuously lovingly showing up for yourself as your beloved, that's inevitably going to attract the we-ness anyways.
You're right. Is there anything like, do you have anything else like to tell me like right now? I know this is just like that I should think about, or is that it?
Well, first of all, how does that land for you? Does that answer your question?
It does. I still kind of leaves me with like a sense of like, okay, like next 6 months, 12 months, like how should I be thinking about like decision making and like for like a very real decision is like, do I buy property before my partner comes into my life, or do I wait until my partner comes to my life? Because I prefer the latter, but like I'm prepared for the former if that's what is in my path.
Okay, let me tune in. So the question is, why do you feel like you need to wait for a partner to buy the property?
I think because I'm most excited to do things as part of a we, but and I also don't want to like tie myself down if, and I'm also getting a lot of advice from people in my life, and so that's it. But on the other side, I also feel desire to kind of move forward as well.
Yeah. Okay, I'm tuned to that. What I'm getting is follow your highest excitement. If you feel that, if you feel the urge to start looking now, go for it. Like follow that energy of expansion. It's like quantum manifestation is, what do you desire? And then like, what do you desire to feel? So at the end of this, like, what do you desire to feel when you get that end goal?
Joy, love, bliss.
Okay, amazing. So tuning into that right now, feeling joy, love, and bliss. From this space of joy, love, and bliss, what do you feel called to do next?
All of the above. Look for a partner, look for apartment, see what comes first.
Amazing. So just keep on living in like that end result, right? Like that's the quantum manifestation. So just follow that as your intuition, and the more you live in that, like that's the reality that is inevitably going to manifest. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Amazing. We have one last person, and it's Shervin, and then we will wrap up.
Hey, I'm gonna try to have it very quick. So do you know what Kaizen is?
What is it?
Kaizen is a Japanese concept that if you get a skill and just become the master of that one skill, that's called Kaizen. So like you do it, you become the best at one thing and one thing only. And I've recently been asking this question that if I had to choose one and become the master of that one, Kaizen, what would that be for me?
Okay, let me tune in. Do you have different things that you're considering already, or?
No. I just have a list of the things that I'm good at, but I know that's not Kaizen because like I've been with people who are more obsessed with them than me, so that's not mine.
Yeah, okay, let me tune in here. Okay. So when you imagine having your Kaizen, like living in it, doing it. How would that feel for you?
How would I feel?
Mhm.
Energizing, and I don't get tired of it. I just keep doing it.
Okay, beautiful. So what in your life have you discovered that you get that feeling when you do it? That you don't get tired of it. You're just like, wow, I can do this forever.
Um, I don't quite know. Like there has been like I work as a digital experience designer, and sometimes when I make animations, I just get lost in it, and I do it for hours and hours and hours. But I don't think it's the animation that does it. I think it's something more of an experience that keeps people engaged or getting people engaged. Like I can see myself, if my English was better, I can see myself being on stage constantly, but not me being the star of it, but like I want to convey a message, or like I feel very comfortable being there and trying to open doors to concepts for people, and I think that doesn't tire me at all. But I don't know what would that, like that's not exactly skill, and that's not even a purpose. I don't know what it is. It's just that you asked that.
Amazing. I mean, it is a skill and it is a purpose. Right? It is. It really is. Okay, so when I tune into you, Sherwin, I'm seeing like there's blocks right now. Like the energy around this feels kind of constricted for you. It's almost like you're afraid to make a move. Like again, go play and go discover. I'm also gonna invite you into that quantum manifestation feeling of like, okay, like what would it feel like? And then follow that feeling. Because when you tune into that feeling and do it from that place, you're already living in the solution. It's following the aligned action. Because where I'm seeing right now is it's like the image I'm getting, it's like this is you, but you're kind of in this small box. You're like, I don't know, I don't feel a way out. Your job is to break out of the box. So actually get out of your head and just be in the exploration again. Because what you said like was right, like when you are in your Kaizen, it's just this flow. You just have this flow, it's like you unlock something within yourself, right? Like it's going to be a soul gift. It's going to be something that is actually inherently within you, but then it needs a space to come out to play. Like you really, the thing you need the most is an opportunity to discover, because it's actually already in you. So don't get so attached to like, oh, I have to, be this freaking job title, right? Like allow the inner child, like allow that genius to come through you and give yourself that space to explore. Because
Okay.
what is your intention in wanting to find your Kaizen?
Hmm?
What is your intention in wanting to find your Kaizen?
Exactly that. So I can be unleashed in it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So go play. I don't know, maybe take some maybe take some plant medicine. I don't know, like if that feels fun for you. But I think the like number one for you is break out of the box. Just do something where you feel completely free. Go have fun, let go of any expectations and any framework that has to look a certain way, because then you can actually like create from your soul and not from limited perspective. Does that make sense?
Mm. That's going to be really hard because I don't even know where to start, but it does make sense.
Play. Your homework is play.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today, Petra. We are going to have to wrap up. If you want to learn more or, understand your situation, please go ahead and reach out to Petra. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. I see your question is Serene, so reach out to Petra. And again, thank you so much for being here and giving us a little bit of like direction to what's next in our life through your your um, your beautiful wisdom. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm.
Feel free to